13, that's right. The other class is a week behind. Okay, I'm just going to make a note. That's the topic. That's the topic. Okay. Okay. We're going to take a look at, we're going to go back to something I handed out at the beginning of the semester. Well, kind of at the beginning. This is your making marginal notes. Look, Ruthie, you can sit over here. You can sit right here. I'm always glad for people to move to the front of the room. We're going to go back to something that I handed out to you at the beginning of the semester, and that we use to start learning how to do marginal notes. It's kind of my version of the stuff in the textbook. But the reason we're coming back to it now is that the whole thing should be very familiar to you at this point. And I just want to emphasize the importance of it as something that you can use as we go into the last couple of weeks of class and the final exam. Something that you can use to help you, just use it as a checklist to make sure you're doing everything, okay? So if you don't have it, if you don't still have it, it's on the website. It's still on the website. You can please go print it out if you can't find it, okay? So as we know, read paragraphs through at least twice, okay? And many of us read more than twice, looking once for one thing, once for another thing, before we actually get in there and read what it says. On the first read through, read and highlight the title. That's something that I've continually been reminding you of. The last couple of readings that we've had, if you had done something as simple as, say, P.T. Barnum's Legacy, What Was It? Or Ballard's Claim to Fame, What Was It? The answer to that would have gone a long way toward helping you figure out the main idea, right? That's what's important about this. If there's no title, read the first sentence, okay? Often, what the paragraph will talk about is in this sentence. Not always, but often. As we know, look for keywords or phrases. What we understand the reason for that is now is that can tell us what the topic is. Okay, look for any reversal transitions. If what the paragraph will talk about is not in the first sentence, it may be in the sentence with the reversal transition. Does this sound familiar? When we handed this out at the beginning, some of this stuff was like, what's she talking about? Now this should all be second nature. And the thing about this class is I think even though you don't realize it consciously, I think for a lot of you this is second nature. I think you're actually doing this without realizing it. When you first look at something that you have to read, that's what we want, is that this becomes kind of an automatic thing for you when you sit down to read college material. Look for a phrase that indicates a list of things, right? And look for words indicating parts of lists. That's what we've been doing, okay? What questions does the title or first sentence bring up? What prior knowledge do you have about any of the information in the paragraph? What test questions? We haven't been actually writing that down, but every once in a while I will stop and say, yes, with some of these paragraphs we can just figure out what's going on and answer the questions without having to read the whole thing. But in a class where you have to remember what you learned, that's going to be a good trick, okay? What might I be quizzed on in this paragraph? What are they probably going to ask me? Any other question, personal reaction, and any other notes, okay? That's just the first read through, or maybe the first and second read through, okay? Then, if you haven't already answered these things, what's it about? And again, that's going to be the answer to this, right? What's the author trying to tell me about the subject? Okay, this comes with finding the reversal transition or possibly the subject of the first sentence. Okay, is there a list of items? Okay, that's these things, write them down. Is the paragraph organized in parts? Very often has to do with that. And is there a single sentence that tells me everything the author is saying, which we know now is the topic sentence. Okay, so go back to this, find it, even if you think you're not going to use it, you think you've got this all down, which many of you do, you can always get this out and use it for a checklist, this handout. It's time to look back at it again, okay? So if you don't have that, go to the website and get it. Okay, I need to hand out the homework, and as you know, we are in the second homework of the major supporting details. So just to kind of, I always like to see where we're going. You had reading to do in the book. If you didn't do that, or if you're having some trouble with this idea, read that again. I think most of the trouble any trouble that people had on the homework I just handed back was our same old, you didn't read the directions, okay? And didn't listen to what was being said to you. A lot of people only circled one thing when it said to circle two. A lot of people didn't write down the question, so you got marked off for that. So I don't think people are actually having trouble finding supporting details at this point. I think it's just, it's that combination of understanding what we're doing and reading the directions carefully, okay? So this is your second homework in major supporting details. And as you know, as the homeworks work in here, the second one asks for a little more work from you, as historically has happened. So this is what it looks like, our same old paragraphs. And again, what we're looking at here is our lists. What the major supporting details are doing, what that's asking you to do is formalize this list making that you have been doing, okay? So same kind of thing. I was able to copy the first page. I had to go to 2 different copy machines, but I was able to put some sample highlight on the first page. I was not able to do it on the second. There's another set here, which I don't know why I even bothered with this. Oh yes, there is a slightly different directions here in reading the direction. But I just wasn't able to copy color there, so it didn't come out. But you do have to do the highlighting. Okay, and as we can see, again, just looking at this paragraph, this is one of those easy ones because right off the bat, you've got, without even reading it, there are 2 chief causes, first, second. Okay, so then you go back in and ask your question. If you want to make a note here, this looks like the topic sentence because the second sentence starts the list. There's no introduction, right? This is there's no reversal transition. This has the introduction to the list. And you notice that my highlighting is less. Okay, a lot of you are highlighting still a lot of stuff. At this point, you can, I think somebody said, maybe it was in the other class, that remember that we don't want to highlight everything, because if you highlight everything, nothing is highlighted. So once you get to where you know what you're doing here, this is the key thing. Obviously this, and then loggers cutting forests and contractors draining marshes, and then the second is uncontrolled hunting or fishing. Okay, so I made some notes over here, asked myself, what is this list, the reasons that wildlife are being destroyed, okay? So what I'm asking you to do, and this is a kind of a reinforcement for people who are still not really sure, the people where I'm writing on your longer paragraphs, what is this a list of, right? I'm always writing that on somebody's paper. What is this a list of? This exercise is forcing you to focus in on that. So for this, if you look at this carefully, it's almost double work, okay? If you feel like this is the only way you can say this, then just copy this down here. These could conceivably, if you've done a good job on your list, you could write the same thing down here, okay? I wrote this, Elaine Fleming wrote this, okay? She has complete sentences here, but you don't necessarily have to put it in complete sentences, okay? As long as you've got, so it could be these two things. There are two chief causes of wildlife destruction. What are they? First is human invasion. What does that mean, human invasion? You notice I didn't highlight this. Loggers cutting forests or contractors draining marshes. Animals lose their homes and their food supply. For instance, so here's the first, and then this is an example. Environmentalists are worried that northern spotted owls may not survive if the forests where owls roost continue to disappear. Why aren't the owls on here?
Because that's only one part.
It's only
one part of the whole paragraph.
okay. Well, which part is it? That's what's important.
People, it should be with.
I think you have the right idea, but I want to make sure you understand what it's called. Look at these sentences. First is human invasion. When loggers cut forests or contractors drain marshes, animals lose their homes and food supply. Okay, so that's what we're concentrating on, is people using up the animals' homes, people doing something to the animals' homes. So what are the owls? What purpose do the owls serve?
They live in the forest.
So they are an example of people using up the animals' homes, okay? So that's what's important here. The owls don't go here because they're not the major detail. They are going to turn into, in our next week, they're going to turn into minor supporting details. So the same, when you guys first came into this class, and all of my, not just you guys, but all of my 322 classes, if I had given you this paragraph to read the first day, and I said, what is this paragraph about? 99% of you would say this paragraph is about northern spotted owls. You see what I'm saying? That because this is what takes our interest. Oh yeah, those owls, I've seen pictures of those. They're endangered, right? But this paragraph is not about northern spotted owls. And that's how far we've come, is to recognize that not only is it not about northern spotted owls, they aren't even one of the major details. They're just an example of this one. Does that make sense? So again, this is where we get into what purpose does each sentence serve? This is not the main point of the paragraph. The northern spotted owls are not the main point. This is the main point. There are two examples, okay? The second one, hunting or fishing without controls. Okay, so over here I've said too much hunting, fishing. So again, another thing about this, be sure that you're writing stuff down. Do not just copy. This is paraphrasing. If you just copy this down here, you're not going to get credit. As we've said, some things are difficult to paraphrase. Some things you're going to have to just use, but these can be uncontrolled hunting or fishing, too much hunting and fishing. You can't paraphrase hunting and fishing, right? But you can paraphrase what's going on.
even just briefly, this is very, very obvious paraphrasing. The passenger pigeon and the heath hen have both been hunted into extinction. Okay, so again, that's an example. That's on the same level as the owls. So there are two more things here, passenger pigeons and heath hens. And then here, as a reader, the American bison almost disappeared for the same reason. So here is, as we looked on our list here, right, you guys have prior knowledge about any of the information in the paragraph, right? So the bison did not, you guys know that, right, from our other reading, okay? So that's where the little exclamation mark, oh, I know about this. That's what I want more and more of in your college reading. Throughout all your classes, you should be, like I'm always pushing you, you should be building your own knowledge base and being able to say, yes, I've heard of that before, okay? Pin this stuff on your, whatever, on your wall, in your head, or whatever, okay? Because that's what's important, is that you are able to dig something up from your prior knowledge that has to do with this. But the bison did not become extinct, remember? Because the hunters couldn't find them in the cold, right? But again, this is, now because they're not, I'm saying this is an example of ones that have been hunted to extinction, and I'm kind of treating this last sentence as kind of a concluding sentence, which is neither here nor there. As far as these concluding sentences, we're going to see some later on where I am actually asking you to define those.
Wouldn't that last sentence be concluding example sentence?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You could, it could be a conclusion, or you could also call it another example of the hunting and fishing. Yeah. So that the concluding sentence is not so much that we might put a question. I should have put a question mark here. It's not so much that you have to firmly identify that as a concluding sentence for this purpose, but just to try to make an effort to say, how does that fit into the paragraph? Okay, yeah, but I think maybe you're right, it's not. That was my initial question as I read it, to write those notes, okay? And my E's went off the end of the copy page here. They were way out of the edge. Okay, does that make sense? So your same stuff, and then the key, this should be, actually should be easy. Because if you have been doing all this stuff and continue to do it, the answer is going to be right here. If you do this, you shouldn't have to take a lot of time doing this. It should be done for you, all right, if you've been making your list. Okay, so let's do one that doesn't have a, and another helpful thing that I've done for you here, and I've given you a little more help than Lorraine Fleming did. This is what she had in the book, but then you notice this is my little typewriter again. She didn't have numbers here. She was leaving you alone to figure it out. But I have told you, so this is kind of a help. For now, I have given you some hints as to how many things should be in your list. Okay, so that's helpful. Some of them have 3, some of them have 4. I wasn't very good about, and then on this one, she did, for some reason, she did have it. So just same thing, just her typing and my typing. Okay, so that's going to help you in this homework. Is figure, you know how many things on the list. Okay, so no one knows exactly what causes insomnia. Do we have prior knowledge of this? Yeah, we've read something about this before. I've never noticed that before. I've been teaching this class for how many years, and I've been using the same homework, and I've never noticed that this was pretty much the same paragraph. All right, so good. So we have some, it's presented a little bit different way, but we have some prior knowledge of it. Okay. It seems, in fact, that people suffer from insomnia for different reasons. Okay? So this is, interestingly, this isn't really a reversal transition. It is a transition, but it isn't a reversal one. But it's kind of a reversal for our purposes because this paragraph, I lost all my pieces of paper. This paragraph is not, oops, no one knows exactly what causes insomnia. Okay, what would our questions be about that sentence? If we hadn't read the next one. Remember, read the first sentence. What would our questions be about that sentence?
What are they?
Well, yeah, yeah, and what are they and why, if we have all this scientific and medical knowledge today, why does no one know what causes it, okay? So yeah, with all the stuff that we know today, no one knows. Why don't they know? So is this paragraph gonna go on to answer this question? Why don't people know about this? No. No, yeah, see, that's the thing. It seems, in fact, that people suffer from insomnia for different reasons. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? But that's not a full-out reversal transition. It's not on our list of reversal transitions. But in a sense, it is a reversal transition because it tells us that we're not going to answer this question. We are going to answer this question. Even though no one really knows, it's going to talk about this. Here is our, right, word that indicates there's going to be a list, right? Some people can't sleep because they take their daytime worries to bed. Depression is another common reason. Then two, okay, so on our first reading, right, so this one is another easy one, okay? Here's what you need to do here. There's some little directions here, okay, that you have to read. Read the paragraphs, highlighting and annotating as you read. Your annotation should include an indication that you understand what the topic is, okay? And of course, that's going to be automatic if you are asking yourself, what is this list? Here's your topic, right? Your topic is the title of the list, the way we've been doing it, okay? Then here's something a little bit different. And this is Lorraine Fleming's thing, but I'm kind of asking you to do this. Underline the topic sentence. Okay, so that's what this underline is. And circle the words in the sentence that indicate a list. Whoops, that's a subject-verb disagreement. Okay? Now these circles you don't have to do. You could highlight those. But this one is asking you, again, double check your directions. So which sentence do I underline to show that I see what the topic sentence is? Number one. Is number one the topic sentence? Now wait a minute, Tutinga, what about this? What's going to give us the hint to our list? This didn't give us this. If we underline this one, we still have two questions that we don't know whether to answer. So so you're doing your same thing, but not the way we have been. Remember, topic, what's the topic of this? Go through your steps. What's mentioned more often? Insomnia, can't sleep, the disease, insomnia, sleeplessness. So what's the topic?
Insomnia.
Yeah, the topic is insomnia, so that's what I'm saying. Make sure that you indicate that you see what the topic is. What is it telling me about the topic? What's the main idea? This is what you don't have here, so this is what you kind of have to be doing on your own. What's the main idea? What's the main?
Different reasons.
There are different reasons for insomnia, okay? So that, the closest thing to that, so you can do that. If you want to go through all those steps, you can, but you notice I've taken away that scaffolding. You're doing that in your head now, okay? The topic's insomnia, the main idea is that there are different reasons. So the sentence that comes the closest to that is number 2. So same kind of thing as in our homework. We're trying to go right to the topic sentence. Go through those steps in your head, write them down if you have to, and then underline the topic sentence. Does that make sense? So same thing we've been doing, but just a kind of a more realistic, kind of a more real world way to do it. Because when you're reading for your history class, you're not going to go through all that stuff writing down what's the topic, what's the main idea, what's the topic sentence. You're going to need to go right. You're doing that in your head, and you're going to go right to this, right? But you can do that now, okay? Circle the words that give you the idea that there's going to be a list. You can circle these if you want, but do some highlighting on here too. I didn't get my highlighting on. Okay. You can do this too, and then another 2. Okay. So daytime worries, depression, and irregular schedules. This one only has 3, as we can tell from here. Okay. See, now again, it's hard to paraphrase this word, right? Depression is what it is. Some of these things you just, don't knock yourself out trying to paraphrase. People who don't sleep regularly, okay? People who worry too much, okay? Do it up here, and then you can copy that here or put it into other words if you want. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand that out. Oh, I need to fix this actually. There's another set, and I think you shouldn't have any problem with it, but again, I'm very interested in people reading directions. Underline the topic sentence, circle the words that indicate a list. Boy, I did that again. Does everyone see why I'm doing that? What do I mean? Just to talk about grammar for a second. Why am I crossing out that S?
Because then we will be looking for more.
Well, in a sense, yeah, in a sense. Oh, yeah. Here's what happens. Here's what happens with this subject verb. What's happening is the verb to indicate doesn't agree with its subject. And I made a mistake that I teach in my grammar class, that a lot of people do. A sentence indicates, right? And that's where the mistake comes in. It's called a nearest noun error. When you have this word so close to this one, your brain says, yeah, a sentence that indicates, right? But what is doing the indicating in this sentence? Not this, but this. So you don't want to say a sentence indicates. What I'm really saying is the words indicate. No S. So that's called the subject, which is this, not this, should agree with its verb. That's a grammar thing, and that's a really common error that I should have caught. Okay? It's partly to do with the way that the paragraph is set up, because this is close to this, so it looks right. But actually, this is the word I needed to match up with. Okay, it doesn't change the meaning any, it's just a grammar error. Okay, so same thing, again, I didn't get to do the highlighting here because I couldn't do, my boss was watching me and don't like me to use the colored thing so much. It's too expensive. So same thing, 4 general stages, and this one is asking you to circle these, which you probably would have done anyway. Okay, or otherwise notice what was going on. Oops, here, this ran off the edge again. Okay, so and there's only 5 on that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hand this out. And that's your homework.